friends, welcome Sunday night, and Boz is back in the house. How have you been, Dr. Boz? We've missed you.
I am back, yes.
Yeah.
The last, several weeks. I don't even know how long this has taken, but since kind of the middle of June, the plans for family and a vacation, and then moving a kid into college, and that was a blessing, but unexpected from where he was accepted. And so I just did one of those times in life where have you ever heard of the book Love Does?
No.
It's by last name Goff, and he talks about how important it is that in life, if you're looking at how do you really love, it is slowing down and being present for the things that really matter.
Nice.
And in the last month, I did a lot of Love Does. Bob Goff is his name.
Good for you. You know, that is so important. It really is. So
yeah, my son needed a mom to slow down and say, look, you got accepted to a college, but usually these things take, 6 months to get done. We're going to push him into 7 days. So, but it was good. It was, I'm so glad I had the mindfulness, if you would, to just say, whatever else I had on my agenda, I just need to slow down and be right here.
Good for you. Good mom.
Yeah.
Good for you. Well, let me say hi to a couple people. Hey, John, Ruby, Kathy, Jerry Baker. I love that. You are always on. Kathy Williams, Tammy Harper. Hey, how's it going? She's from Cottonwood, California. Amanda Whelan. Jennifer Down Badger. Yay, Jennifer's on. I had a conversation with Jennifer, is a friend of mine. We've been blogging buddies for kind of, I don't know how many years, Jen. She starting keto, and she's like, I don't know if I'm doing it right. And I was like, you know what? I have 15 minutes. Call me. So she called me, and she's like, I know you do it. I've seen your before and after picture, but we've kind of lost touch. And she wasn't for sure if she's doing it right. And I forget that there's so many people that, it's the beginner information for keto can be so overwhelming. And I think the best piece of advice that I gave her was, look, don't worry about macros. Don't worry about anything but cutting your carbs and cutting out the sugar. Learn the food first.
Right.
It took me forever just to learn the right foods. And I made all the mistakes in the beginning. So I remember telling her, focus on the foods first. Don't worry about the amount. Just eat the right foods first. And then, really watch your carbs. And then worry about timing when you eat later. Just focus on foods. And she's like, this is so helpful already. And I was like, I forget how, you and I probably we started with macros and under this and don't eat here. And
it's interesting too, because as you hear the questions again, it does just kind of wrap your brain into a previous chapter where you're like, oh, I have come a long ways with the way I speak, the way I educate, and going back to those fundamentals has become that's how you catch, there's a wave of people trying to figure this out. Your guest Amanda's writing and saying, how do I do this? And, I look at what my language, she's a type 1 diabetic, which means she's giving herself insulin. And I look at the number of conversations that I've had and the different ways that I've gone from, okay, I know what I would have told her 2 years ago. And now I have a different message saying, just to kind of look at your question, her question is, she takes both short and long acting insulin because she's a type 1 diabetic. The key thing that I do with type 1 diabetics is make sure that their mitochondria are ready. So if she's been doing keto for a while, it's easy. But if they're brand new,
you know what? She needs to watch your Lachlan playlist on YouTube, because Lachlan is a diabetic and you're going to find all the information you need, but it's going to take a long time. This isn't a quick conversation.
Right.
You really need to watch the process of what Lachlan went through so that you can understand what you need for your own journey, right?
Yeah, and I'll tell her that the reason I picked a type 1 diabetic to follow is because in educating her, I educated so many other people that didn't have nearly the complexity to their questions that you will and other people did. So good.
I enjoyed watching that, and I'm not a diabetic, but you know what? It was a neat journey. But these people who are diabetic, who do want to do keto and want their doctor on board, it was a really good learning tool for them to even get their doctor on board to go, we can do this.
Exactly. And I didn't even have that script in my head down when I first started. I was like, okay, how would I help somebody with that?
Yeah.
So,
but we, and we have come a long way. I remember in the beginning, I've made so many mistakes. I was worried about the macros, the this, that, you know what, let's simplify it, because when we're making it too difficult, there's too many people that go, nope, I'm not going to do it. And it's so important for you to do it. Like this is for your health. Forget weight loss, forget all these vanity reasons. This is for your health. And if I can just make it easy for somebody, I would just say, look, just focus on the right foods first. And let me give you a reminder for those, we have a lot of new people that have joined the channel. I provide a ton of free resources to help you get started. Just add your email to my list. It's called, go to www.switchtoketo.com. We'll put the link in the comments. And I will give you a weekly email that is meal plans, grocery list with recipes for free, once a week for free. That is my way to help you along on this journey. And I think it's just important that if you have that support. I didn't have that when I started, and I felt it. I mean, this is why I do it, because I wanted something like this when I started. So.
Exactly. Well, and when I look at the number of people that I've sent to that and had that resource, it's just one more tool to say, okay, stop trying to overthink this. It gets a lot easier once you get used to the the types of foods you eat.
Yeah.
But that beginning helpfulness. Yeah. And it is about creating a community.
Yeah, it is. So if you guys know somebody starting keto, share this video out, do them a favor, and let them know that this is a really good resource where they can get the support that they need to get them started, because it's so important. You'll be doing them a favor. So tonight we're going to talk about thyroid issues.
Yes. So tell me, when you were picking this topic, what inspired you to choose this one? Have you seen lots of questions on it?
I think thyroid comes up quite a bit in our group, and I kind of wrote out a bunch of questions that I've seen, and let me just throw this all at you. Okay. People want to know what does the thyroid do? How do thyroid hormones work? What are normal thyroid levels? What are supplements that can help your thyroid if you think you have problems? What are symptoms of bad thyroid? Are thyroid and diabetes related? If you think you have thyroid issues, what tests do you ask for your doctor? How do you treat thyroid problems? Can thyroid problems cause hair loss, acne, joint pain, neck pain, dizziness, anxiety, hot flashes, mood, and your eyes? So there's been quite a bit of talk about thyroid, and I thought it would be a good conversation.
Okay, pick one of those. Let's start with them, because that's a lot.
Let's talk about what the thyroid does and why it's important, and maybe symptoms that you may experience if you think you have something wrong.
Right. So it's a great organ to bring into the education kind of armamentarium for keto, because when you're looking at why people choose keto, sure, there's weight loss, but it doesn't take but a couple weeks into this journey to say, wow, my energy feels so much better. And when you watch the summary statements about how do you teach about thyroid, think of the thyroid as part of your throttle for energy, your throttle for how your body is running. And just like any dynamic engine, meaning one that can go faster and slower, there has to be this talking way that says, how much energy does your body need? And then how much can it supply? If you keep pushing really hard, asking for energy that you can't supply, the engine will have a collapse. So your thyroid is very important for kind of sensing how much energy is needed to keep the body purring along and meeting the needs. And it also is, if it starts to not work well, the throttle doesn't reach those demands. So you'll hear lots of people say, oh, I wonder about my thyroid. I feel low energy. I feel like my metabolism has shut down. You look at other ways that thyroid impacts the body. Their brain works slower. Their immune system works slower. Their hair grows slower, so they'll have hair loss, actually. All of these, if you can kind of back up and remember that thyroid is your throttle, like how fast, how much do you need? In a cancer patient, when they're repairing from chemotherapy or they're trying to kind of keep the body going despite the destruction that cancer is doing on the inside, the thyroid needs to, step up its game and produce more throttle, more energy to meet the demands of that. If you're fighting an infection, the body will take out, and sense how much need does the body have. And I really find that when I teach about the thyroid, I start by saying there are all these symptoms that are related to thyroid disease and everything else that people say, well, if it's not my thyroid, what is it? I'm like, well, here's the deal. Thyroid, yes, is one of the things that connects all these things together. And the list of symptoms that happen when your thyroid isn't working well, people will get very focused on, it's got to be my thyroid. It's got to be my thyroid. And if the thyroid is meeting the demands, they can get really frustrated when they can't give the credit or blame to the thyroid. And in fairness, the thyroid is easy to fix. So that's, as a physician, if it's the thyroid's fault, I can help with that very easily. We can replace that symptom very easily. But when it's not the thyroid's fault, it becomes much more complicated. So when I look back over the last 20 years and the first few years of my practice, I would prescribe the thyroid medication and take care of it. Now, even if their thyroid isn't functioning at its best, I'm much more careful to say, okay, so your thyroid can make up for when your body does need a little higher throttle, but it's only going to be able to kind of step up its game by a layer or a level. If you've got like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, adrenal fatigue, your whole body is just slow and really having a tough time, and I add a little thyroid medication, people expect like it's going to be magical and they're going to feel so much better. But the truth is, we have a mitochondrial problem, which are these little bitty places where all the energy is made, and that is where the ketogenic diet can really help, resurrect or really restore the energy coming from the cellular level.
So you're saying that the thyroid is just a problem that leads from the mitochondria issue, which is where you start in fixing something would be your diet.
Yes. I mean, that is such a powerful message that I did not teach that when I was first in medicine. It is only in these last few years of really understanding the metabolism through changing the fuel to a ketone as opposed to glucose, and knowing that the symptoms will look just like thyroid disease when their mitochondria are saying, hey, you're asking a lot of me and you're feeding me that really crappy food called constant carbohydrates, and you're asking me to keep going, but I'm working through a bunch of sludge and inflammation, and the fuel you're feeding me isn't very good. And all of those symptoms look just like my hair is falling out. My brain doesn't work well. My energy's low. I'm gaining weight. I even have some, stretch marks, those types of symptoms. They'll Google it and think, it's got to be my thyroid. You need to replace my thyroid. I'm like,
so let's say somebody really does have a thyroid issue. First of all, what kind of doctor do they go to, and what are all the tests that somebody should ask for?
Right.
Just to rule out this that you could fix. I know we should definitely start keto. Everybody should, I think. Yeah, I mean, reducing that inflammation is going to help with just about everything. I don't think I've found something that it didn't help.
Right. From teeth to toenails, I keep saying, you can't believe the things we can find that get better with the ketogenic diet.
Yeah. But let's say somebody really does have a thyroid issue, or maybe they think they do, and all those symptoms that we know or Google or whatever, it's got to be the thyroid. So how do they know? What tests do they order? What doctor do they see?
Right. So any primary care physician. The beauty of thyroid disease is it used to be, and I'm talking, this is the 1990s, the lab tests at that point were not nearly as good as they are now. So there's a lot of mythology in, you got to make sure you get this special test. And I'll be honest, I've ordered all of those other tests before. 99% of how you make the decision about whether or not they have thyroid problems comes down to a couple of easy, cheap tests. You do not need to spend $600 on thyroid tests to know if you have a real thyroid problem. When the thyroid's not working well, the signals from the thyroid and the brain start to mismatch, and your primary care physician, even an Instacare doctor, could order these thyroid tests.
Oh.
So there are advanced doctors that saying, you know what, we've done the first layer of tests. If you want a more advanced specialist, we could go to an endocrine doctor who specializes in thyroid. But as those endocrine doctors teach the primary care physicians the mistakes we make, we often talk about we're using thyroid tests inappropriately. We're ordering way too many of the fancy tests. We need to start with some of those basic tests, save the money of the patient, and know that thyroid is a great mimicker. It's going, you know, there are going to be other things that look like thyroid disorders. So there's two major ones that should be ordered, and then some other ones that aren't difficult and usually aren't too hard to talk your doctor into ordering. The first one is something called a TSH. So TSH, I can tell you what it stands for, but if you just write down TSH, there's only one test called that. And it is the signal of the brain telling the thyroid, hey, we have this metabolism need. This is the needs for today. And it will send the message to the thyroid. So we can measure how much. It doesn't just have a wire that connects the brain to the thyroid. It produces that hormone, and that hormone floats around in your blood. So when we do a blood test, we can see what is the message, how loudly is the brain speaking to the thyroid.
Okay.
And the second thing that we look at is something called a free T4. And free T4 is not the active part of your thyroid. It is the inactive part that is produced by the thyroid gland. And once that T4, again, it releases outside of the thyroid and it floats around in your blood. And so as it's floating around in your blood, it's going to land on the cells that need the thyroid throttle message. And so once in the cell, we take that T4 and we turn it into a T3. But T3 is active inside those cellular messages. So the beautiful part about the T4, which is the other blood test, so you got a TSH and you have a free T4. The T4 can get past the lipid layers that each cell has around it. So when you're checking the blood levels, the two biggest blood tests that teach us most of what we need to know is what message is the brain sending to the thyroid? And then what message is the thyroid sending to all the cells? And even though your T4 is not the active part of your thyroid, it is the major message carrier in your blood, which is where we do the tests. Good. So
that sounds pretty easy. I mean, a primary care physician can order the TSH and the free T4. If you have problems or you need to see a specialist, you mentioned an endocrinologist.
Yep.
And then, of course, start with diet first, because that's what's going to really promote and help the mitochondria get started.
Well, and I think that's the part that I wanted to make sure we covered tonight was, so there is a test out there. If you Google it, you'll hear some of the, I don't want to say conspiracy theorists. They're just trying to be as thorough as possible, saying you need to do, your free T3 as well. And if they don't check your free T3, they're really not paying attention. They're being a bad doctor. And that's not true. It's just that what you get from the free T3 isn't nearly as impactful as what you get from your free T4. There's also something called a reverse T3, and that is it's a different. It's an inactive part of the thyroid. It is found in your blood, but it is not. It's not nearly as helpful as looking at your TSH, your free T4. And if you want your doctor to check a free T3, check a free T3. And again, most of the decision making is made from those first two tests. There's a small amount that you can make from the next test. The reverse T3, I know there's a lot of docs out there saying, oh, you got to make sure they do this. Yeah. And I would contend, before I would spend the extra money, because most insurances won't cover that test, before I would spend the extra money on that, I would have my patients be keto for 2 months and say, I know that you want this to be the thyroid's problem. They don't want it. They're just looking for an answer. And thyroid is easy.
Yeah.
But if you can just trust me, that if we change the fuel that you're giving your thyroid, and you go from lots of sugar to ketones, you are going to be amazed at how many of those symptoms that I know Google says is related to thyroid are now going to be better when you're on a fuel of ketones as opposed to a fuel of glucose.
For sure.
So it's not that I don't do reverse T3, but I do that after they've been on ketones for a couple of months. And you're like, isn't this a better answer? And almost always, I mean, I rarely have the patient who, once they have normal thyroid labs and have really stayed the course, come into support group, trying to know that this is hard. The steadiness is where you find the power of improvement. And we all have had struggles. And then watch to see what happens by that 8th week, that 2nd month. And those symptoms of low thyroid, which probably were sluggish mitochondria, are starting to really say, oh, we can do a better job here.
So on those symptoms that look like the thyroid, if those symptoms don't get better after 2 months on the keto diet, is that when you're saying that, yeah, you should probably check it out?
Yeah, so I never want to tell a patient like, oh, we'll never do that test.
Yeah.
I mean, all you're doing there is fighting with them. What I do tell them is we're going to try and spend your money in the places where I'm going to get you the fastest renewal of your system. And if your TSH and free T4 are not normal, if they're out of range, man, I'll put you on thyroid hormone and you're going to feel better within a week, maybe 10 days. But if I am trying to like finagle how the labs are coming back in, that there's just this tiny little difference that only because I checked a reverse T3 on the 2nd blue moon, you're just finding this little bitty, like, okay, maybe there's a hint of a problem.
Yeah.
And if I give them the thyroid medication, it's not going to help their symptoms. And now they're going to be back two months later saying, I don't think you picked the right dose. I think you need to have the Armour thyroid. I read on the internet that it needs to be this thyroid. And you're like, okay, we're chasing windmills here.
Yeah.
Let me show you what happens when we change the fuel for your mitochondria.
Yeah.
After we've proven that it's 99% not your thyroid or it is your thyroid, now let me show you how to improve the symptoms.
So look at this. Joan says, I'm so happy to hear this. I follow a Facebook group on thyroid problem sufferers. Joan, I think I'm in that same group. I've been in it for a long time. I know exactly what you're talking about. Actually, I'm in a couple thyroid groups. They are so ill and desperate based on their posts. Let's see, I lost it.
It's got to be the thyroid. No word.
Yeah, it's got to be the thyroid. No word about what they eat, how much they smoke, if they drink alcohol, sugary drinks. The nearest I can come to being supportive is suggested Google search autophagy. You know what, Joan? You can do one better. You can share this video in that group so that we can help as many people who have thyroid issues on the best place to start is with their diet. And you can be supported just by sharing this information with them or tagging your friend to let them know, because diet, and I hate to say the word diet because it can scare so many people off, but when you do cut the carbs and sugar and you reduce the inflammation, it is amazing. From pain, joint pain, acne, so many things that happen in your body get fixed. And there's a word for, it seems like every disease and everything, but it seems to always come down to some sort of inflammation. And it would be helpful. Share it.
The other thing I like to point out is that one of the first lectures that I saw on how does thyroid fit into the ketogenic diet, I was probably the first year into responding to my patients and wondering how can I connect what is happening with their thyroid to the ketogenic diet, because there was changes in their thyroid over that first year of being keto. And the changes were almost always that their thyroids were getting a little better. I was needing less medication for these thyroids. And I happened to watch one of the lectures you had to pay for to watch Jason Fung somewhere early, like over 3 years ago now. And he is kind of riffing on stage he goes, I don't know, I don't have the answers yet, but about at 9 months or a year, I'm really careful that my team checks their thyroid again, because it looks like it doesn't take as much thyroid to to keep them in normal range. And there are some dangers. If I give you thyroid medication and you don't need it, that actually can increase the way your bones turn over and give you osteoporosis in about 3 years. And there's a couple of great stories about how we learned that, saying, okay, there's danger in giving too much thyroid, in pushing the throttle where you shouldn't. But so you say, okay, as physicians, we don't want to cause harm. We really do want to find the right match for their symptoms, get them feeling better. And man, every physician can feel the heaviness of a patient that's come in saying, it's got to be my thyroid. You try to help them with as little thyroid without hurting them, knowing that it's this tiny little place that you're impacting instead of this big area where we could say, let's change the way you're fueled.
Yeah.
So the punchline is Jason Fung came back a couple of years later and he's talked about saying there is something to this where your one question of, is diabetes related to thyroid? They're both a consequence of the immune system not working right. You can call it autoimmune, meaning your body kind of attacks the thyroid, and we call it Hashimoto's thyroiditis. But diabetes is the same thing, where you kind of attack some of the islet cells that make insulin. Mm-hmm. And so in those places, thyroid and diabetes are related. And we've learned that when people are on the ketogenic diet, there is an improvement in their immune system that is very slow, is very subtle at first, but by 9 months, you can't miss that something is better about the way they fight infection, about the improvement in their autoimmune diseases, the resilience of not getting sick as much. And it was those comments by Jason Fung at about the same time where I'm like, I can't find anything in the literature about how to explain this.
Yeah. Well, you say 9 months, and my own personal experience was 6 months. I noticed in blood tests, 6 months was an improvement. Hey, but Claristina asked a really good question. Can keto help the thyroid if the gland was removed? Or can keto help after the thyroid gland was removed?
Yeah, that's a tough place. Keto can help when the thyroid is still making its own thyroid and making the hormones. That response, it gets more and more efficient. But we know that when the thyroid is gummy, like inflamed, it doesn't do a very good job. But if a surgeon has gone in and said, let me remove it, can't undo that with a thyroid diet or with a keto diet.
Okay.
So, yeah. Now, does it mean she'll need less thyroid? I don't know. I think you're still going to need about the same amount. I don't know. I haven't seen that change.
Got it. So Connie says, I've been keto for 3 months, no cheating. She even added exogenous ketones. She does feel a lot better, but no weight loss. She has Hashimoto's. Any suggestion as to why I'm not seeing any weight loss? My mom has advanced stage dementia, so no plan of ever stopping keto. Would love to see some weight loss though.
Right. So if you're looking at some of the most common reasons why weight loss isn't happening, it's that their insulin is higher than they think it is. And instead of rushing out to get an insulin test, I really push them to get their own little monitor and check their blood ketones and blood glucose using that ratio, the Dr. Boz ratio. I have several videos kind of explaining that, saying, wow, there's so much repair that happens when you lower the insulin. And oh, by the way, that's the only phase that allows you to lose weight. So just like when you and I first started this journey, your weight loss had been amazing for the first 9 months or whatever you were at. And then you kind of stalled out, and we needed to take your chemistry to the next level. And you're like, but doc, I'm doing everything right. Everything I eat is keto. And I'm like, yeah, but we need your immune system, your system to just take a step forward in the right direction. And that's where we push them to say, I would have her make sure she's checking her blood sugars, blood ketones. That sounds scary, but it's really not that bad.
It really is the best way to see what's going on with your own body. If you know what your glucose levels are and you know what your ketone levels are, you're going to know if they're high. And if they're high, you're definitely not going to be in a weight loss zone for sure.
Right. Using that ratio, people say, wow, you buy one of those meters, it's like $100 for all that kit. And I'm like, yeah, but just take take into mind what the expense is to coming to see a physician, convincing them that keto is not such a bad thing to have. That's going to be at least 2 visits for sure. And then getting them to order a blood test that shows you what your answers are is even more expensive.
Yeah.
I'm like, cut out the middleman, get the tool in your own life and use it, point of care, use it multiple times, and watch what that empowerment does. Because usually if somebody's not losing weight, it is related to the time of day that they're eating, or how much stored sugar their body has. And the way I learned that as your physician is to do these same blood tests. If you've checked it multiple times, it's actually a better test than I'm going to do one and done. Let's hope nothing goes wrong. Let's hope all the stars have aligned that I can accurately assess your system.
Yeah.
So,
hey, check this out. Pam says, I was told I had goiter and Graves' disease back in 2007. The doctors now say they're not there. Isn't that interesting?
So how old is Pam?
Pam, how old are you? I have no idea.
So it's great because if the immune system is really, charged, like it's trying to defend and fight, and it's kind of confused, but a journey of chaos is what happens with these, when a goiter is getting very swollen, the thyroid is getting very swollen. It's your immune system attacking that thyroid. And if you want to stop it, there's no better way than a ketogenic diet. Like, shut down the immune system, take out the inflammation, keep the glucose low. All of those things result in improvement in not just the you got some great weight loss, but I mean the way that thyroid repairs from whatever was attacking it is now done more efficiently because ketones are bathing that thyroid. So. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah.
So Connie responded, she said, thank you. I did use the ketone and glucose monitor for the first month. I need to order more inserts and get back to tracking again. Was under 80 most of the time. So it is kind of funny. And I've dropped off tracking, and it's kind of funny how you can put a little extra whipping cream in your coffee like I tend to do. If you don't track and hold yourself accountable and you have a goal for weight loss, you're not really going to know where you're at or what's going wrong if you're not tracking, if that's your goal. Not that you have to track, but if your goal is weight loss, I have been very guilty of not tracking and then just stall out because I know what to eat. I know what I should stay away from. But if I need to push that weight loss, I know that there's time restricted eating. I know that there's food consumption. I know that there's certain foods that I need to be more strict on that may be keto friendly, but may not be keto friendly for me. So it's so important.
I think it's that human nature where when you watch how much of the behavior change when something is new. And I look at chemotherapy, I look at recovery from addiction, and I compare both of those. They're both crises, or they're both times in their life where they, kind of have these private conversations with themselves to say, I'm going to change. And although that's wonderful, and you want to, as a physician, you just want to put that in a bottle and give it to patients when they need the inspiration. Time tells us the best stories. And as the time goes forward, that they have a better level of, they improve their stress reduction. They've kind of got this rhythm down. Maybe even they've reached one goal and thought, okay, I don't want to set another goal. I'm just going to hang out here. Yeah. Or they take on a little more stress. All of those, very normal. But it's so easy to go back to some of those older habits to say, I was really good for a while. Doesn't that count now too?
It is. I know. I think I'm in one of those phases where I'm like, screw checking the meter, screw looking at I don't even think I have the scale in my bathroom anymore. Like, I'm fed up, like I'm done. You get to a point where you're like, okay, I've done some hard work. I want to take a break. I don't want to go insane thinking about numbers and stuff, but it's all about balance, right?
Yeah, it is. And I think that's where physicians really, the art of medicine becomes so important for saying, know when to push them and know when to say, hey, I don't want you to add anything. I want you to master this skill a little more. And that is how you attract patients to change instead of, shaming them or scaring them into change, because it doesn't last. They will fall off.
Yeah,
exactly.
We've got a really, really good question from Holly Wing that I just got to read real quick. She says, I have been on keto for almost 2 years. I've had my thyroid removed 2.5 years ago due to Hashimoto's compression. It ended up being cancerous.
Oh boy.
Keto has helped me a lot. I've lost 50 pounds, but I still really struggle with many symptoms. I've had a very hard time getting my thyroid dose right. My doctor is now thinking I have adrenal issues, has put me on a low dose of hydrocortisone, which I don't want to be on, but it is helping. Some say keto is not good for adrenal disease. I would love to know your thoughts.
Oh, this is such a hard question. Okay, I mean, it's not hard in the answer. It's not hard in my answer. It's hard in the patient's answer. So yes, adrenal fatigue. We did one of these videos on this a few weeks back, and what is the chemical missing when people's adrenal glands aren't matching the demands of their body? It is a steroid. Steroid production of cortisol is what that prescription medication is replacing. And by golly, when they add it back, there's this kind of saying in medicine that says, oh yeah, we can make everything feel better with prednisone, which is the hydrocortisone that she's talking about. So we watch what steroids do, and steroids are this masterful removal of inflammation because of a pill. And you say, but doc, how could I possibly feel better if it wasn't the right thing to do? I feel so much better. And I'm like, you're going to feel better for the short term. And then your system is going to say, oh, we're used to this. And now you have to go through the process of withdrawing from that, resetting the system. You're going to feel worse before you feel better. So when these are my patients, I do some heavy consulting with them and an accountability partner to say, I need your life to scale down. You are pushing your body. And in order for me to recover, for you to recover, we need to have some really serious edges here. I do this.
Wait, are you saying that they're stressed out all the time, or that their job is stressed, or their family life is stressed, or something is causing these stressors? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So if you say, okay, why did the adrenal fatigue happen in the first place? Or why is the cortisol improving this? It's because a quick removal of the inflammation says, yeah, something is chronically inflamed. And if you want to see a quick answer, and I don't mind using those prednisone pulses, almost like a diagnosis or a confirmation that, yes, this is chronic inflammation, or it's some sort of inflammation. And when we remove the inflammation, they felt better. But if you want me to provide the anti-inflammatory in the name of a steroid, we are going to end up with bones that don't work right. They're going to have mushy bones. They're going to have a mushy brain, and they're going to have an immune system that cannot fight off infection. Okay, and that's like the summary that I tell my patients is, when you ask the physician to be God, I mean, what cortisol is it's a response and then it's not, and a response and not. And my prescription is steady. It's going to stay the same. It's not reactive. It's not dynamic. So when you ask a hormone to be replaced, yes, for short term, it's going to feel better. But the long-term answer is, I get their accountability partner in there, whether that's a husband or ex-wife or probation officer, I don't care who it is, but somebody needs to help me say, the bedtime needs to be reset. The electronics need to be out of the bedroom. And that workshop that I do called Brains of Addiction, I go through saying, you think life about, repairing a brain is this quick, don't do drugs, or no. It's about, how do you hone in and restore the rhythm of a brain that is in charge of your energy and your immune system and, one of these chronic diseases like adrenal fatigue.
Yeah. So I think, and I want to thank Holly for asking this question, because it's such a good question, but I think I can almost relate to her, because I'm a very high-strung person, type A, like total, do lots of stuff. And I can almost relate to her in having my adrenals just be so worn out that you're going like 100 miles an hour in the day. And then when you get to night and you go to sleep, it's like you're 100 miles and then you're asleep. And I feel like I can almost relate to her. So I'm trying to think, and I'm trying to put myself in her shoes to say, okay, you've just told her that something in her life is causing this, and something that is happening, you really need to focus on the stress. So how I'm thinking of, is there a way she can journal this? Like, can she literally write down how she feels? Because there are times where my chest is so tight, and I'm thinking I should probably do this, where I can write down what just happened and how do I feel, so that I know how to change something. Because sometimes you're so involved in your own life that you probably don't even recognize, because you're a mom of 4 kids, or you're a single mom, or you have a job and you do this, or maybe you have 2 jobs, or whatever, but you just get in a habit of doing something. So I'm literally thinking of her going, okay, I can relate to this. How would I recognize that? And I'm almost wondering if, when you get that feeling, or when you know you've hit too much, maybe you should stop, be in the moment, be mindful of what just happened and how you can prevent it. And I'm also thinking of deep breathing, because I know when I get to that point, I'll just take a couple deep breaths, and you'll be amazed at how that kind of changes a little bit. But I'm just wondering about her.
Well, I mean, and there's lots of biohacking out there to say, can you take a look at how you're doing? Like, you'll see most of the time when I've been home, I wear an Oura ring, which is the ring that measures the variability of your heart rate. It also tracks how many hours did I sleep. And it's not based on my recognition. It's really actually looking at what your life looks like. Some of the other biohacks out there are all ways that you can improve how the mitochondria respond in life. And it's not something that you're going to change right away. I mean, prednisone can change that, but it is at a price that when you stop the prednisone, it's tough on people. I mean, I've seen them go into a depression after they stop their prednisone.
Oh,
and they're like, it can't be right. I know that there'll be a doctor out there that'll write this prescription forever. And I'm like, if they do, they're not looking at the long-term health of your body. I mean, it's a quick fix that I use it. I use it to diagnose. I use it to rescue people in a short-term situation. But then we have these really hard conversations saying, no, really, how many hours a night do you sleep? Not just last night, but for the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And that gets me back into the time tells us the story of what your body's being asked to do and what it can possibly do. And as much as blaming a thyroid or giving credit to the thyroid is an easy way to give them a pill and send them on their way and they're going to be fine, the real answer is almost always in how are they living their life?
Yeah. Well, Ruben had a good point. He said meditation works for stress. And Ruben, I agree with you, but us high-strung people, it's hard to get to a meditative state. I will tell you that there are some neat apps out there that can help you with that, if you need help like I do.
So I'll show you something. I actually brought this with me on my vacation. I still have it. So this is that Muse headband where it is it looks really dorky when you put it on, but I'm totally like you. I'm high strung. I would feel like I'm doing meditation and this is ridiculous. I'm wasting my time. I'm just sitting here breathing. I have so much to do. And this is biofeedback of brain waves that say, when you're in meditation, your brain waves change. And the better control you have at slowing down your brain and really being present in the moment is the correlation that we're talking about, saying, could you reduce the stress?
Okay.
Can you get that monkey jumping around in your brain to settle down?
I'm still laughing at how it looked on there. I think you need to put it back on so I can screenshot it. No. I'm going to screenshot it and make a meme of that.
Okay. No, don't do it.
No, I'm just kidding.
It's super weird though. So you can see the sensors on the inside. These are like EEG sensors that help us measure brain waves for when people are sleeping in the sleep lab. And so there's actually a medical grade version of it. And then this is the one that's not medical grade. It's like out in the real world.
Okay with the Oura ring, but there is something about that thing on your head that just makes me crazy.
It's super cool.
If it works, you go, girl.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, have you ever tried to meditate?
I'm high strung. You know how difficult it is for me to meditate? Difficult, very difficult. It's probably one of the hardest things I need to. I know I need to,
Right. And to me, if you can't prove to me that I actually spent my time doing something that actually improved it, I think it's a waste of time. And that's what my self-talk would be like, this is ridiculous. I sat here breathing when I have all this other stuff to do. And that's what I would do.
I know. Yes. Yes.
So,
Hey, Alexis let me read what Alexis just said. She's 26 and she has hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
Okay.
I've been on the fence about keto because my cardiologist says it's not healthy for the heart. However, I feel miserable no matter what I try, seem to lose 40 to 55 pounds. I can't seem to lose 40 to 55 pounds that I need to lose. Now they're saying they think it's my thyroid since I'm tired all the time, and I've been expecting some anxiety, losing hair, having some hot flashes. My question is, do you think I should go for the test or just try keto to see where it takes me? I just don't want to be put on medicine when it's something I can fix with a diet.
So hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is the thickening of your heart. And it is because the heart is being asked to push blood through a body mass that is bigger than it was designed to do. Now, there are some genetic reasons why she is more at risk for that. It's very good that she knows she has this. But the key treatment plan, and I've seen people end up with gastric bypass surgery. I've seen them end up with sleeves that they gained all the weight back. I mean, really nightmares of the stress of the surgery was what they did to improve the outcome, because every single study shows that if they decrease the body weight, their heart did better. So this specific type of heart disease, it is a very important thing to work in partnership with your doctor. But most importantly, give your heart the break by losing the weight. And that means do not play around. This is not a patient that has the privilege of saying, I'll dabble in keto. No, I would get my book. I would read through that and say, you cannot miss the science behind why you're doing this. You need to lower the carbohydrates less than 20, and you need to stay on this side of the fence of keto for at least 6 months.
So, Alexis, good question. Thank you for asking that. Hey, do you have your book so you can show her what she needs to order?
I've given them all away and I'm not home yet.
Okay, no worries. Alexis, order the book any way you can by Dr. Boz. We'll drop a link in this in the comments real quick. Not only is it a story of how Dr. Boz helped her mom battle cancer with it, but it's also a teaching tool because it takes you through almost every step of the way in keto that could help you, and probably a lot of, well, let's just say it gives you the science behind it and how you should do it and why and what it fixes.
So yeah, the best answer for somebody with this kind of an advanced medical problem, and you're really trying to get your doctor to kind of get on board, he knows that the most powerful thing for you is the weight loss. So once you're done reading the book, gift it to that doctor and say, no, read the first 3 chapters before I see you again. You can't miss. I mean, I'm pretty skeptical when I first started writing that book, saying it can't be true. This can't be true.
Yeah.
And then
look at this. Donna says that she has it and she's been doing keto for a year. All better.
Yay.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
The treatment is the weight loss, and that you're never going to find a faster way to lose weight than, especially 26, that is insulin resistance until proven otherwise in my mind. Like, why does she have the struggle with weight? She has been on a high carbohydrate diet. She has got the insulin resistance, and that antidote is super, super empowering to patients when they are able to get the weight off and then say to their doctor, I think even though I have this risk for heart disease, I'm going to be better at a lifetime with this heart disease because I'm going to keep the weight down by being keto. Yeah.
Gloria said that she can't seem to meditate either. It makes her nervous. See, I'm not the only one.
I'm telling you, that's a product of brains. It is. I've been there. And especially when I look at, like, I have this engineer in our group, our keto group, and he discusses the monkey brain and how easy can you control the monkey in your brain. It starts humping around saying, I got all this to do. I got all this to do. I got all this to do. That's what meditation does, is it teaches you to put the monkey in his timeout seat so you can think about all the things you need to think about. I'm like,
my monkeys are partying. There is no control. So I can't find the question because they're going too fast, but do you think you would be willing to do another talk on sleep? I had somebody ask that a long time ago, and I meant to ask you and we got on a tangent. You want to talk about sleep? Because sleep is so important. If you want to do
we can do that one next time. It's one of my favorites, and we'll take those on because it's to the kind of questions that I love.
I would even be willing to share what my husband went through on the Dr. Boz protocol.
Yes.
It was quite interesting. Oh my God.
Yeah.
For him and for me.
The observation and then the patient. Absolutely.
Yeah. Also, could you guys do me a favor? There's a lot of questions that I think, like right now we're trying to stay on thyroid issues to really help out the thyroid talk. But if you have other issues that you want to discuss, if you could put in there what the problems are, because I'm always trying to bring on the best experts that can help us with the problems that we're trying to figure out. Like I'm a figure it out kind of gal. And that's what we bring to this channel. We bring on, we want answers. We want answers for what's happening. And thanks, Dr. Boz, for coming on and helping us to better understand thyroid, because we had a lot of questions and it was a really good conversation.
Yeah, let's wrap up one more before we stop on thyroid. It says thyroid and vitiligo, and she had another question, the same thing.
Okay.
When you look at vitiligo are patches of skin, and sometimes it's hair, but most of the time it's skin that has no pigmentation. So they're like white patches throughout the body. So they'll tan everywhere except the spot, and then it's all white. You say, well, why does that happen? And it is an autoimmune problem. Again, your immune system attacked the melanin cells, the cells that make brown, and they no longer produce melanin. So when you say, can I treat that? Much like what happens with that thyroid that's removed, if the body completely destroyed the cell that makes the melanin, you can't resurrect it. If you're early in the vitiligo where you've just started having the spots, sometimes I've seen them go keto and about a year later, the spots are much less. But if it's this, when you say, how are thyroid and vitiligo related? Yes, they're both autoimmune disorders. Much like Crohn's and thyroid go together and type 1 diabetes and thyroid go together. These are places where the immune system attacked the thyroid, the immune system attacked the pancreas, or the immune system attacked the skin. So that's how they're connected. The way they become both improved by the ketogenic diet is that, several months into the ketogenic diet, when the immune system is now purring at a much less inflamed state. And boy, if there's ever a cry for somebody who should be in a support group for ketones, like showing up every week, talking about your stresses, talking about how you succeeded or didn't succeed, it's the people with autoimmune disorders, because they really do need the long journey to get the benefit. And human behavior is not the quick flash in the pan, change everything, and then run away. It's how do you change something and stay the course? And that's...
Well, Holly answered, we spent so much time on her question because it was a really good one, but she said, thank you so much for spending so much time answering my question. It means a lot to me. It's definitely a work in progress, but I'm trying to reduce my stress and focus on better sleep. It's good to know that my gut feeling that the hydrocortisone is not the answer. It gives me so much hope. Love you both. We love you too.
Yeah. So, if life, I don't know where she's from, but I'm headed back to that Pella, Iowa in the first weekend in August to give that workshop on brains of addiction. And boy, it sounds like it's for addicts, but it's really for how do you help your brain age the best? And boy, that's where my teaching really comes alive. It's kind of a middle of nowhere, but that community is trying so hard to help out their people. So if you're in the area, you can join us. Yeah,
love that. I was going to try and go. We still need to connect our schedules because I tried to go to the last one. So we will definitely schedule a sleep talk for sure.
I like that.
You guys have any? Oh, yeah. You are like the sleep. I mean, anybody who mentions sleep, it's automatic Dr. Boz.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. It's been a really, really good conversation tonight.
Great comments. Good job, everybody.
Yes, really good comments. So good talk. if you're watching the replay and you have problems that you want to see discussed on here that has to do with keto and whatever medical problem you're having, let us know, and we will see if we can't schedule it into a future show.
Yes.
All right. Have a good night.
Everybody.
Thanks, Dr. Boz, for coming on. We'll see you next time.
Please subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos. Stay tuned.